The hall buzzed with anticipation as guests in glittering attire exchanged pleasantries under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. The Sinclair estate was at its grandest, adorned with gold-trimmed decorations befitting a New Year's gala that had become the talk of the town. But Mia stood apart from the laughter and opulence, gripping a glass of water as if it were a lifeline. Her dress, elegant but modest, felt out of place among the sequined gowns and tailored suits surrounding her. She had hesitated to attend, knowing that the Sinclairs, her estranged extended family, rarely welcomed her with open arms. Yet, her cousin Lila's insistence had worn her down. "It's just a party," Lila had said. "No one cares about old grudges anymore." Mia doubted that but had convinced herself it might be a chance to reconnect. Standing in the corner of the room, she realized how wrong she had been. "Mia!" Over here, boomed the voice of her Uncle Charles, cutting through the music like a sharp blade. Heads turned, and a hush fell over the crowd as Mia felt all eyes on her. Charles stood at the center of the room, a drink in hand and a smirk on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his tone dripping with mockery. "Let's give a warm welcome to our prodigal niece. She's graced us with her presence despite her unique life choices." The silence grew heavy, punctuated only by scattered, uncomfortable chuckles. Mia's face burned as Charles continued. "Tell me, Mia, how's life outside the Sinclair privilege? Still painting those little pictures?" His gaze swept over her dress, his smile widening. "Or is this one of your creations? Quite bold." The laughter this time was louder, sharper. Mia froze, her chest tight with humiliation. She scanned the room, hoping for a kind face, but found none. Even Lila, who had promised this would be different, avoided her gaze. The moments stretched endlessly before Mia mustered the strength to mutter an excuse and slip outside. The cold air hit her like a slap, but it was a welcome relief from the stifling cruelty inside. The Sinclair estate's sprawling garden was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the laughter and music echoing from the grand hall. Mia sank onto a stone bench, her breath visible in the chilly air. She stared at the frost-covered roses, their beauty dulled by the season, and felt an unwelcome kinship with them. Her hands trembled as she replayed the scene in her mind, the crowd's laughter, Charles's smirk, her helplessness. Tears pricked at her eyes, but she blinked them away. Crying wouldn't change anything. This wasn't the first time the Sinclairs had made her feel small, but it was the most public display of their disdain. It wasn't just about her. It was about her father, whose financial ruin years ago had made them pariahs in the family. The Sinclair name, once a shield, had become a scar she couldn't escape. The sound of approaching footsteps startled her. She turned to see Lila, her expression a mix of guilt and discomfort. "I didn't know Uncle Charles would do that," Lila said softly, sitting beside her. "You know how he is, always trying to be funny." Mia's lips tightened. "Funny?" she echoed bitterly. "Mocking my life is his idea of humor?" Lila fidgeted, avoiding her eyes. I should get back inside," she said awkwardly, rising to her feet. "But, if you need anything, let me know." As Lila disappeared into the house, Mia felt a wave of anger wash over her. She wasn't angry at Lila alone, she was angry at herself for hoping, even for a moment, that things could be different. The ride back to Mia's apartment the next day was a quiet one. She sat on the train, her hands gripping the pendant she always wore, a simple, carved piece of wood her father had given her years ago. It was a symbol of strength, but today it felt like a hollow promise. As the train rocked gently, her thoughts drifted to the past, to the days before everything had fallen apart. Mia's childhood had been filled with privilege and possibility. Her father, a successful entrepreneur, had been the pride of the Sinclair family. She remembered summers spent at the family estate, where laughter echoed through the halls and her father's presence commanded respect. But when his business collapsed, so did the facade of familial loyalty. The Sinclairs had cast them out without hesitation, distancing themselves from the shame of failure. Mia and her parents had struggled to rebuild their lives. Her father took on menial jobs to make ends meet, and her mother fell into a quiet depression. Mia, once surrounded by luxury, found herself navigating a world she didn't understand. It was during those years that she discovered art, finding solace in the strokes of her brush. Though she earned recognition through scholarships and exhibitions, the Sinclairs dismissed her accomplishments as insignificant. Returning to the present, Mia stared out the window at the cityscape rushing by. She clenched the pendant tightly, her jaw set. She had worked too hard to let their judgments define her. But the sting of last night lingered, a painful reminder of how easily they could unravel her sense of self. Mia's small apartment was a sanctuary of color and creativity. Canvases leaned against every wall, their vibrant hues a stark contrast to the gray skies visible through the window. She stood before her easel, trying to channel her emotions into her work, but the blank canvas stared back at her, indifferent and unyielding. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find a delivery man holding a small package. Confused, she signed for it and brought it inside. The package contained a note and a carved wooden pendant, intricately designed. The note read, "Don't let them define you." There was no signature, only the simple, powerful message. Mia held the pendant in her hand, its weight grounding her. She didn't know who had sent it, but it felt like a lifeline. Later that evening, she wandered into a nearby coffee shop to clear her head. The barista, a friendly man named Liam, struck up a conversation. "You seem like you've had a rough day," he said, offering a warm smile. For reasons she couldn't explain, Mia opened up, sharing a sanitized version of the Sinclair party. Liam listened intently, his expression thoughtful. "You know," he said, "sometimes the people who tear us down do it because they're scared of what we might become." A week later, Mia attended a gathering of local artists. It was a small, informal event, worlds away from the Sinclair galas, but it felt like home. The highlight of the evening was an open mic session where attendees could share their talents. Mia had no intention of participating, but Becca, her friend and fellow artist, had other plans. "You have to share something," Becca insisted. "People need to hear your story." Reluctantly, Mia took the stage with a piece she had written, a poem about resilience and self-worth. Her voice wavered at first, but as she spoke, a quiet strength emerged. The room hung on her every word, their applause at the end a wave of affirmation. For the first time in weeks, Mia felt seen. She left the event with a flicker of hope, realizing that her voice, both in art and words, held power. The euphoria from the artist gathering lingered for days, but Mia's newfound hope was soon tested. As she sipped her morning coffee, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Becca, who sent a link to a society column. The headline read, "Sinclair New Year's Gala, a night of elegance and awkward moments." Her stomach dropped as she scrolled through the article, which recounted Charles's mocking comments about her. The piece painted Mia as the poor artist who had stumbled into an event far above her station. The author had embellished Charles's remarks, making them sound even crueler than they were, while describing Mia's reaction as a defeated retreat. Rage and shame bubbled within her as she closed the article. The humiliation from that night had already begun to fade, but this public reminder ripped open the wound. Becca called moments later, her voice furious. "This is trash journalism," she fumed. "You shouldn't let them get away with this." But Mia wasn't ready to fight. "What would I even do, Becca?" she replied. "The damage is done." The conversation ended on a somber note, but the article stayed with Mia, a bitter reminder that her family's disdain was never far from public view. Determined to escape the weight of the article, Mia spent the evening at Eleanor's home. The older woman had become a mentor of sorts, offering wisdom that Mia desperately needed. Over cups of tea in Eleanor's cozy living room, Mia poured out her frustrations. "I just don't understand why they hate me so much," she said, her voice tinged with despair. "What did I ever do to deserve this?" Eleanor listened patiently before speaking. "Their treatment of you says more about them than it does about you," she said. "You're a mirror, Mia. They see in you what they're too afraid to confront in themselves: authenticity, resilience, independence. That's why they try to break you. But you can't let them win." The words struck a chord, filling Mia with a renewed sense of determination. Before she left, Eleanor handed her a worn journal. "Write in this," she said. "Every time they hurt you, every time you doubt yourself, write. Turn your pain into something they can't take away." Mia clutched the journal tightly, knowing it would become both a weapon and a shield in the battles ahead. A few weeks later, Mia found herself at another Sinclair gathering, this time a charity gala hosted by Lila. She had nearly declined the invitation but decided to attend after a long conversation with Becca. "You have every right to be there," Becca had said. "Don't let them scare you off." The event was as grand as expected, with guests mingling over champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Mia kept to herself, avoiding Charles and his circle of sycophants. But as the evening progressed, her curiosity led her to a quieter part of the house, where she overheard a heated conversation. Charles was speaking in low tones to several men, their words laced with urgency. Phrases like "diverting funds" and "no one will know" caught her attention. Her heart pounded as she realized what they were discussing: a plan to embezzle money from the very charity the gala was supporting. Mia's mind raced. Exposing Charles would not only reveal his corruption but also risk making her an even bigger target. Yet, the thought of staying silent felt unbearable. She slipped away unnoticed, but the weight of what she had learned pressed heavily on her. Mia spent the next few days agonizing over her discovery. She confided in Eleanor, who listened intently before offering her advice. "Exposing the truth will come with consequences," Eleanor said. "But staying silent will weigh on you far longer. You must decide what you can live with." Eleanor's words stayed with Mia as she began piecing together a plan. She needed proof, something concrete to back her claims. Over the next week, she discreetly gathered information, reaching out to a few trusted contacts within the Sinclair circle. To her surprise, she found allies, people who had long been aware of Charles's schemes but had lacked the courage to act. By the end of the week, Mia had enough evidence to confront Charles. It wasn't just about exposing his corruption, it was about reclaiming her voice and proving to herself that she could stand tall in the face of adversity. With her resolve solidified, she prepared for the confrontation that would change everything. The night of the confrontation arrived. Mia attended another Sinclair event, this time armed with the knowledge and evidence she had painstakingly collected. The gala was in full swing when Mia stepped onto the small stage used for speeches. The room quieted as she addressed the crowd, her voice steady but charged with emotion. "I wasn't planning to speak tonight," she began, her eyes scanning the room. "But there's something I believe everyone here deserves to know." She recounted what she had overheard, detailing the scheme with clarity and conviction. Gasps rippled through the audience as she presented her evidence, the room growing more tense with every word. Charles stood frozen, his face a mask of rage and panic. "This is absurd," he finally roared, his voice trembling. "She's making it up, desperate for attention as always." But before he could continue, Eleanor rose from her seat, her calm demeanor silencing him. "I've reviewed her evidence," she said, her voice firm. "And it's irrefutable. This ends tonight." The room erupted into chaos as guests turned on Charles, their whispers of support for Mia growing louder. For the first time, Mia felt the weight of her family's disdain begin to lift. She had taken a stand and, in doing so, reclaimed the power they had tried to strip away from her. The fallout from the confrontation spread like wildfire. Within hours of the gala's conclusion, whispers of Charles's scheme reached every corner of the Sinclair circle. Social media buzzed with posts from attendees, their outrage palpable. News outlets picked up the story, and Charles became the reluctant star of a growing scandal. For Mia, the days that followed were a mix of triumph and trepidation. She received messages from family members who had once ignored her, expressing cautious admiration for her courage. Some offered apologies, though their sincerity varied. Meanwhile, Lila reached out with a phone call. "I didn't know," Lila said, her voice unsteady. "If I had, I swear I would have done something." Mia listened in silence, unsure whether to believe her cousin's sudden contrition. Despite the vindication, Mia struggled to process her emotions. The Sinclair name was both a curse and a connection she couldn't sever. While she had taken a stand, the years of ridicule and exclusion weren't so easily forgotten. She threw herself into her art, hoping to channel the maelstrom of feelings into something tangible. Mia's small studio became her refuge, the walls alive with half-finished canvases bearing bold strokes and vibrant hues. One morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows, she stood before a blank canvas. Her mind raced with images of Charles's fury, Eleanor's steadfast support, and the whispered approval of the gala's guests. She dipped her brush into a palette of deep reds and golds, letting the colors tell her story. As she painted, her thoughts drifted to Eleanor, whose unwavering confidence had given her strength. She thought of Liam, who had once told her not to let others define her. Their words resonated in each stroke, the painting taking shape as a phoenix rising from ashes. The fiery bird symbolized not just her resilience, but the rebirth she felt beginning to take root within her. When the painting was finished, she stepped back and studied it. It wasn't perfect, but it was raw and honest, much like her journey. Becca visited that evening, and when she saw the phoenix, tears welled in her eyes. "Mia, this is incredible," she said. "You've turned everything they threw at you into something beautiful." The Phoenix painting became the centerpiece of Mia's next exhibition, an event hosted by a gallery that had long admired her work. The invitation felt surreal, a validation of her years of perseverance. As she prepared for the exhibition, she received an unexpected visit from Liam. He arrived with a small bouquet of wildflowers and an apologetic grin. "For the artist," he said, handing her the flowers. They talked for hours, and Mia learned more about Liam's own struggles as an artist. He had given up painting years ago after a series of setbacks but found joy in supporting others. "Seeing you take on everything they threw at you, it's inspired me," he admitted. "Maybe it's time I picked up a brush again." The night of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery buzzed with energy. Guests mingled, their admiration for Mia's work evident in their whispered praises and thoughtful questions. When the Phoenix painting was unveiled, the room fell silent, its vibrant power drawing everyone in. A journalist approached Mia, asking about her inspiration. "It's about rising," she said simply. "About finding strength in the ashes." Among the crowd at the exhibition, Mia spotted a familiar face, Lila. Her cousin approached hesitantly, a glass of champagne trembling in her hand. "Your work is breathtaking," Lila said, her voice quiet. "I wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I should have been there for you." Mia studied her cousin's face, searching for sincerity. She saw vulnerability, a crack in the polished facade Lila had always maintained. "You hurt me," Mia said, her tone even. "But I believe people can change. If you're serious about making things right, I'm willing to try." The conversation marked the beginning of a cautious reconciliation. While trust wouldn't return overnight, Mia felt a flicker of hope that their bond could be rebuilt. Lila promised to attend more of Mia's events and even offered to help connect her with potential patrons. For the first time in years, Mia felt the possibility of a genuine relationship with her cousin. The exhibition's success marked a turning point in Mia's life. Offers began pouring in: commissions, collaborations, and invitations to prestigious events. Yet, amid the excitement, Mia remained grounded. She continued her work with the local artist collective, finding joy in mentoring young creatives and helping them navigate the challenges she had once faced. One afternoon, she received a call from a community center director who had heard about her story. "We'd love for you to give a talk about your journey," they said. Mia hesitated at first, unsure of how her story might resonate. But after discussing it with Eleanor and Liam, she agreed. The event was intimate, held in a small auditorium filled with aspiring artists and community members. Mia spoke candidly about her struggles, her failures, and the moments of triumph that had defined her path. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. A young woman approached her afterward, tears in her eyes. "You've shown me it's possible to rise above," she said. "Thank you for sharing your story." Mia left the event with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt before. Her journey was no longer just about proving her worth, it was about inspiring others to find their own strength. The exhibition marked the beginning of a transformative year for Mia. Opportunities poured in from galleries, community projects, and collaborations with other artists. Each new venture was a testament to the strength she had cultivated through years of hardship. Yet, the rapid changes in her life were both exhilarating and daunting. She often found herself wondering if she truly deserved the praise she was receiving. Mia's studio became a hub of activity, filled with sketches, paintings, and half-finished projects. Despite her doubts, she found solace in her work, pouring her emotions into each brushstroke. The Phoenix painting, now her most iconic piece, served as a constant reminder of her journey. It hung in a gallery downtown, drawing visitors from across the city. Each time she saw it, she felt a surge of pride and a renewed commitment to her craft. Her personal life also blossomed. Eleanor continued to be a steadfast mentor, offering wisdom and encouragement during moments of self-doubt. Liam became a close confidant, their friendship deepening with every shared conversation. Together, they formed a support system that Mia had never realized she needed. As Mia's reputation grew, the Sinclair family found it increasingly difficult to dismiss her. The scandal surrounding Charles had permanently tarnished his standing, and many relatives began to distance themselves from him. Some reached out to Mia, offering tentative apologies for their past behavior. While their words varied in sincerity, Mia recognized the effort and chose to accept their gestures cautiously. One afternoon, she received a letter from her Aunt Clara, a woman who had always been indifferent at best and cold at worst. The letter expressed admiration for Mia's success and regret for the way the family had treated her. "You've shown us all what true resilience looks like," Clara wrote. Though surprised, Mia felt a small sense of validation. Among those who sought to make amends was Lila. True to her word, Lila attended Mia's events and introduced her to several influential figures in the art world. Their relationship, though still fragile, began to rebuild. "You've inspired me, Mia," Lila admitted during one of their conversations. "I want to be better, not just for you, but for myself." Despite the strides she had made, Mia hadn't heard from Charles since the gala. His silence was a relief, but it also left a lingering question about his intentions. That question was answered one day when a letter arrived at her studio, the handwriting instantly recognizable. Mia hesitated before opening it, unsure of what she would find. The letter was an apology, not grandiose, but surprisingly genuine. Charles admitted to his wrongdoings and expressed remorse for the harm he had caused. "I don't expect forgiveness," he wrote. "But I hope you'll believe that I'm trying to change." The letter ended with a request for a meeting, an opportunity to speak in person and begin repairing the damage. Mia wrestled with conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to ignore the letter entirely, unwilling to risk reopening old wounds. But another part of her recognized the importance of forgiveness, not for Charles's sake, but for her own peace of mind. After days of deliberation, she decided to meet him, though she resolved to keep her guard up. The Sinclair estate felt different as Mia approached it for the first time since the gala. The grandeur was still there, but it seemed quieter, as if the weight of recent events had dimmed its opulence. Charles greeted her in the drawing room, his usually commanding presence subdued. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the silence heavy with unspoken words. "I owe you an apology," Charles began, his voice unusually soft. "Not just for the gala, but for everything. I've spent years tearing you down because I couldn't face my own failures. It was easier to project my insecurities onto you." His admission caught Mia off guard, and for the first time, she saw him as something other than the imposing figure who had humiliated her so many times. Their conversation was raw and honest, filled with moments of tension and vulnerability. Charles didn't ask for forgiveness, but he expressed a desire to make amends. "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for," he said. "And I want to support you, in whatever way I can." Though the path to reconciliation was far from clear, Mia left the estate feeling lighter, as if a long-held burden had finally begun to lift. The meeting with Charles marked a turning point, not just in their relationship but in Mia's journey as a whole. She realized that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, it meant releasing the hold that past pain had on her present. With that realization came a sense of freedom she hadn't felt in years. Inspired by the encounter, Mia began incorporating themes of forgiveness and growth into her art. Her next major project was a mural commissioned by the city, a sprawling piece that depicted interconnected hands reaching for the sky. The mural quickly became a symbol of unity and hope, drawing visitors from all walks of life. At the mural's unveiling, Mia stood among the crowd, her heart swelling with pride as people admired the piece. Liam was there, along with Eleanor and Becca, their support as unwavering as ever. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the mural, Mia felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had faced her past, reclaimed her narrative, and found a purpose far greater than herself. The days following her meeting with Charles were reflective for Mia. The reconciliation was tentative, but it marked an important step toward healing. True to his word, Charles began taking small actions to make amends. He publicly withdrew from Sinclair family affairs, allowing his past misdeeds to be scrutinized without deflection. He also donated a significant portion of his wealth to the community project Mia had championed. For Mia, the gesture was a start, though trust was a long way off. She remained cautious but chose to see the changes in Charles as genuine. Meanwhile, her relationship with Lila continued to evolve. Lila invited Mia to family dinners and even began incorporating art into her own life, inspired by Mia's work. Their bond, once fractured by years of indifference, was slowly being rebuilt on a foundation of mutual respect. Still, not all relationships within the Sinclair family were mending. Some relatives remained distant, unwilling to acknowledge Mia's growth or Charles's fall. But Mia no longer sought their approval. For the first time, she felt content in simply being herself, without the shadow of their judgment looming over her. Mia's mural had become a focal point in the city, drawing visitors daily to admire its vibrant imagery and hopeful message. Its impact extended beyond the art itself. The community rallied around it, organizing events and fundraisers to support local artists and underfunded schools. Mia found herself at the center of this movement, her story inspiring others to take bold steps toward their own dreams. The most meaningful moment came when a group of young artists approached her during one of the events. "You've given us hope," one of them said, her voice filled with emotion. "Your story shows us that no matter where we come from, we can make something beautiful out of our lives." Mia was deeply moved, realizing that her journey had transcended personal validation. It was now a source of empowerment for others. The mural project also brought Liam back to his art. Encouraged by Mia, he unveiled his first piece in years, a striking painting that captured the interconnectedness of human struggles. Seeing his work displayed alongside hers at a local gallery was a full-circle moment for both of them, reinforcing their shared belief in the transformative power of creativity. One quiet evening, as Mia sorted through old sketches in her studio, she came across the small wooden pendant she had received months ago. The gift had been a turning point in her journey, a silent encouragement when she needed it most. Yet, she had never discovered who had sent it. Determined to find out, she asked Liam if he knew anything about it. To her surprise, Liam smiled knowingly. "It was from me," he admitted, his tone warm. "Well, sort of. It belonged to my grandmother, who was an artist like you. She always believed in the power of small gestures to change lives. When I saw how much you were struggling, I thought it might remind you of your strength." Mia was speechless, her heart swelling with gratitude. The pendant, so simple yet profound, had become a symbol of the kindness that had guided her through her darkest moments. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have no idea how much it meant to me." The revelation deepened their friendship, cementing a bond rooted in shared resilience and mutual support. With the new year approaching, Mia decided to start a new tradition, an annual gathering at her studio to celebrate creativity, resilience, and community. She invited friends, fellow artists, and even some family members, creating a space where stories could be shared and connections could flourish. The idea was met with enthusiasm, and preparations began in earnest. The evening of the gathering was magical. Candles lit the studio, casting a warm glow over the vibrant artworks adorning the walls. Guests mingled, exchanging stories of triumph and struggle, their laughter filling the air. Eleanor gave a heartfelt toast, praising Mia for her courage and dedication. "This room," Eleanor said, gesturing to the diverse crowd, "is a testament to the impact one person can have when they refuse to give up." As the night progressed, Charles and Lila arrived together, their presence a symbol of the family's evolving dynamics. Charles approached Mia cautiously, his expression uncertain. "This is extraordinary," he said, gesturing to the studio. "You've built something beautiful here." Though his words were simple, they carried a weight of sincerity that Mia hadn't expected. The gathering's success gave Mia a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. Surrounded by people who supported and believed in her, she felt the final remnants of her self-doubt begin to fade. Toward the end of the night, Charles asked for a private word. They stepped onto the balcony, the city lights stretching out before them. "I've wronged you in so many ways," Charles began, his voice heavy with regret. "I don't expect you to forgive me entirely, but I hope we can move forward." Mia studied his face, searching for any hint of insincerity. What she found instead was a man who had been humbled by his mistakes. "Forgiveness doesn't erase the past," she said. "But it can help us build a better future. Let's start there." Their conversation marked the final step in Mia's journey of reconciliation. As the guests began to leave, Mia stood alone on the balcony, the pendant clutched in her hand. Fireworks burst in the distance, their colors illuminating the night sky. For the first time in years, Mia felt at peace with her family, her past, and most importantly, herself. The gathering had left Mia's studio brimming with life, a warmth that lingered long after the guests departed. As the days passed and the year neared its end, Mia found herself reflecting on everything she had overcome. Each challenge, each humiliation, and each triumph had shaped her into the person she was now, a woman who had reclaimed her narrative and built a life of purpose. On New Year's Eve, Mia joined Eleanor, Liam, and Becca at a small park overlooking the city. The sky was clear, the stars bright against the night's canvas. They sat on a blanket, sharing stories and laughter as the countdown approached. "This year has been transformative," Mia said, her voice thoughtful. "I never imagined I'd feel this free." As the countdown began, they rose to their feet, joining the voices echoing through the city. 10, 9, 8, the anticipation grew, their cheers blending with the fireworks bursting across the skyline. When the clock struck midnight, Mia closed her eyes and made a silent promise to herself, to continue creating, to embrace every challenge, and to inspire others to rise as she had. With the new year came fresh opportunities. Mia's mural continued to draw attention, becoming a beacon of hope for the city. Schools began organizing field trips to see it, and community leaders reached out to Mia for collaborations. She was no longer just an artist, she was a symbol of resilience and renewal. Mia also began mentoring young artists, hosting weekly workshops at her studio. Each session was filled with energy and creativity, the participants eager to learn from her experiences. One student, a shy teenager named Clara, reminded Mia of herself at that age, unsure, overlooked, but brimming with potential. Mia took Clara under her wing, encouraging her to share her story through her art. The workshops soon evolved into a broader initiative, a community-driven project that paired struggling artists with mentors. Mia's studio became the heart of the movement, a place where stories of hardship were transformed into powerful expressions of hope. Her own journey, once defined by rejection, now fueled the success of others. Though Mia's life was flourishing, one relationship remained unresolved. Her mother, a quiet yet constant figure in her life, had always struggled to express her emotions. The years of financial hardship had strained their bond, and Mia often felt as though her mother carried a weight of unspoken regret. Determined to address the rift, Mia invited her mother to the studio one afternoon. They sat together, the silence heavy but not uncomfortable. "I wanted to show you something," Mia said, leading her mother to a painting covered by a cloth. When she unveiled it, her mother gasped. It was a portrait of a woman standing in the rain, her face illuminated by a soft, golden light. "This is how I see you," Mia said quietly. "Strong, enduring, and full of grace." Tears welled in her mother's eyes as she reached out to touch the painting. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "For everything you went through. For not being stronger for you." Mia embraced her, the years of unspoken hurt melting away in that moment. Their bond, though imperfect, was finally mended, a reminder that even the deepest wounds could heal with time and understanding. As winter turned to spring, Mia began planning her next major project. Inspired by the mural's success, she envisioned a series of public art installations across the city, each one telling a unique story of resilience and hope. The project, titled Rising Voices, would be a collaborative effort, bringing together artists from all walks of life to create a tapestry of shared experiences. The initiative garnered widespread support, with sponsors, community leaders, and fellow artists rallying behind it. At the heart of the project was Mia's belief that art had the power to connect people, to bridge divides and spark meaningful change. "Every voice matters," she said during the project's launch. "Together, we can create something extraordinary." As the first installation took shape, a towering sculpture of interlocked hands reaching skyward, Mia felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was more than art, it was a legacy, a testament to the strength and beauty of the human spirit. "Incredible," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Mia smiled, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "It wasn't just me," she replied. "It was everyone who believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." Fireworks burst in the distance, their colors illuminating the night sky. For the first time in her life, Mia felt wholly at peace with her past, her present, and the limitless possibilities of her future.